There's a TikTok trend that's been doing the rounds, and quite frankly, I think it's rubbish. Here it is.
One more these, two these. One more these, two these.
You want this? Try this.
Let me tell you why this trend is good for engagement, but terrible if you were to actually follow it for fitness advice. On a foundational level, it's okay advice just to give an exercise for a muscle group, right? But that's pretty basic. You could go onto Google, search chest exercise, and you would find push-ups, bench press, dumbbell chest press, incline cable chest fly, etc. So that's why I find this trend pretty invaluable, because all they're saying is to do an exercise. But if you were to continue to do that exercise for that muscle group, ultimately, your muscle's going to get used to that stimulus. We want to think as stimulus to our muscles as a joke. The first time you tell it, it bangs. It's funny. Starts off with a hiss and a roar. But then as you tell that joke over and over and over again to the same people, or your muscles, it's going to be crickets. Everyone knows that the joke's coming. They know the punchline, they know the timing. It's not going to be funny. And that's like when you continue to do the same exercise over and over and over again. Your body's going to get used to it and stop responding to it. That's why I like to change programs every 4 to 6 weeks. That doesn't mean that every exercise has to change, but the stimulus of that exercise does. The only real reason to take an exercise out of a program is if you stop responding or stop progressive overloading for that exercise. So if you're doing a back squat for 4 to 6 weeks, but you're continuing to apply progressive overload and get stronger, there's no point taking it out. You can just keep it in and keep progressing with it. But if your bench press has hit a plateau, then maybe it's time to change exercises, give that exercise a break and move on with something else. As we focus on one exercise, then the stimulus to another exercise is becoming less. I was a personal trainer on the gym floor from 2015 to 2020 in Auckland, in Gold Coast, and now in Sydney, Australia, and I've seen too many people just continuing to do the same exercises over and over again. And they come in, they spend 1 hour in the gym, and they're just not getting the return for the investment that they're putting into the gym, and that's why I want to share this information with you so you can continue to make progress. Secondly, if you're not eating enough to support the muscle growth process, it's going to be very, very hard to build muscle. You can only build muscle in a calorie deficit if you're a beginner, if you've taken a while off the gym, let's say at least 3 to 6 months. Thirdly, if you're an enhanced athlete or lifter using performance enhancing drugs. So if you don't fall into one of those 3 categories, it's going to be in your best interest to try and optimize the muscle building process, which begins at consuming maintenance calories or sitting in a surplus which is just above your maintenance calories. A calorie surplus is a place where we optimize muscle building because our body literally has an abundance of calories to work with, to recover from, and to help fuel your performances when you're in the gym. A stronger muscle is often a bigger muscle. And we can look at macros within those calories, but the fundamental piece of knowledge that I want you to walk away with is you have to be at least eating at your maintenance calories to encourage the muscle building process. If you're just slogging away on 1200 calories, it's going to be very hard to see you building muscle on those poverty calories, which I like to call them. If you do want to find your maintenance calories, you can use my free calorie calculator. I'll put the link in the description. Thirdly, you have to be taking your workouts close enough to failure. So many people are training too far away from failure that they're not giving their muscles, once again, like I said in the first point, a stimulus to respond to. You have to be training at least 5 reps in reserve away from failure. And I like to step that up to be even at 3 reps in reserve away from failure. If you did a set of bench press and you finished the set and you thought to yourself, I could have probably done 5 more reps, that's going to be 5 reps in reserve for you. So if you're sitting in that spot, that's the bare minimum that I want you to be working out at. Keep in mind, that's true failure. That's lifting up the bar or trying to lift up the bar and it coming back down on you and failing. If you're 5 reps away from that, then you're in a pretty solid place to build muscle. That's the reps in reserve model. I also like to use the RPE or rate of perceived exertion model with my clients. And if we're training at least at 7 out of 10 or 70%, then that's going to be a very solid place to start a workout program to build muscle and to get stronger. To take it even further, what I like to do is program each intensity for each week of the program. So if we're looking at a 4-week program, the first week is at 7 out of 10 intensity, the second week is 8 out of 10, the third week is 9 out of 10, and the fourth week is 10 out of 10 training balls to the wall. As you progress through the program and you get used to it, then you can start dialing up your intensity and lifting heavier weights. The fourth point that I'd like to bring up is if you're not sleeping enough, you're not doing yourself any favors. The optimal place to sleep is somewhere between 7 to 9 hours of sleep. I have a daughter. I know that in people's real world, that is very unattainable. So personally, I like to shoot somewhere between 5 to 7 because that's more realistic for me. At the moment, however, in a perfect world, I'll be sleeping 7 to 9 hours. Not only does that help us recover, but it also flows into our productivity in the gym, how hard we're training, and also how we perceive failure. A more sleep-deprived person is going to feel that failure is actually closer than it really is. If we're training closer to failure in general, it's going to be better for our strength and better for building muscle. To bring this video home, my last point would be to make sure that your technique is correct. The fastest way to get strong is to train with correct technique. If you're getting strong and your technique begins to fold underneath the weight that you're beginning to lift, that means at some point, there's going to be a breaking point where you either get injured or you get stuck because of technique breakdown. And the stronger you get with poor technique means that you're delaying going back to fix your technique, and it's going to be harder to change those habits that you've already made, which are bad habits in your technique. Also, if your technique is mastered, then you're actually focusing on the target muscles and using them to lift the weight as opposed to connective tissues like ligaments, tendons, and things that aren't meant to take the load, like your lower back instead of your hamstring and glutes in a deadlift. I've got nothing against these fitness influencers posting these trends online, but keep in mind, just because a video has high engagement doesn't mean necessarily that it's high value. If you've seen any other trends online that you want me to react to or hear my opinion on, please comment below and I'll check them out. See you in the next video.